When we combine the natural and temporary relationships, we get what is called the dignity. The dignity tells us how well a planet functions in an environment, and that makes complete sense because we calculate the dignity by analyzing the natural relationship of two planets plus how they interact based on their circumstances. Of course, we know there are in total 9 dignities from debilitation to exaltation. But for now, let's focus on the ones in the middle: great friend, friend, neutral, enemy, and great enemy dignity. And let's try to understand them on a practical level. And for that matter, I have got the chart of a person who has all those 5 dignities in their Rashi chart. And each one of them will tell us something very unique about their life. So let's start here with the Sun in Pisces. This person has always been drawn to studying different philosophies, meeting people from different backgrounds and trying to understand the deeper meaning of life. As a teenager already, they got involved with a spiritual organization, and soon after they started teaching and counseling as well. And so we can see here that the Sun is in great friend dignity. Again, the dignity indicates how well a planet functions in a particular environment. Is the planet compatible with the environment? Meaning, is the Lord of the environment supportive? And so here we can see that Jupiter is the natural friend of the Sun. And so the Sun's unique talent and leadership are supported by Jupiter and its Pisces qualities of intuition and kindness. And then here in the 10th house, this shows that this is an excellent placement for the Sun that makes this person a spiritual teacher who actually has the power and authority to guide people towards inner peace. The Sun's Lord Jupiter is in the 12th house and becomes a temporary friend of the Sun. Remember, the planets 3 signs in front and 3 signs behind are temporary friends. And so here Jupiter becomes a temporary friend of the Sun, and therefore doing meditation workshops, traveling to foreign lands and holding spiritual retreats, all is here supported by the temporary friend Jupiter. Now Jupiter is also here in Taurus, the sign of wealth. And so as a temporary friend, Jupiter will help the Sun to protect its financial security, right? As he goes about traveling the world and speaking at events and leading his meditation retreats. And so the Sun here in great friend dignity shows that he is able to impact thousands of people in his now 20-year-long career as a spiritual teacher. And he has also been able to build up his financial security through his work. And so the Sun here indicates that he is a person who loves really what he does, that he can express who he is. And in the 10th house, of course, that also shows that he is liked and supported by his followers and gets the recognition that he deserves. Let's talk about Venus. Venus is in a friend sign. And it is here in Aries, which is a natural neutral sign. And this means that Venus is in an environment where it can function, but it doesn't receive the full support from the sign itself. In fact, any time that a planet is in a natural neutral sign, the dignity can go one or the other way. It can become friendly or inimical. So it's important to check the temporary relationship. And so here Venus's Lord Mars becomes a temporary friend of Venus. And so this pushes the dignity to the friendly side. Venus is in the 11th house of friends and peers. and prefers harmony and cooperation. But in Aries, this tendency has a potential to get disrupted, right? Aries is self-willed and independent. And so when Venus is in Aries, it is still charming, but a lot more direct and assertive when dealing with others. And so we can see how this competitive environment could easily throw Venus off to the wrong side. And of course, the worst would be if Mars was in Cancer, right? Because then a person might just act out of an emotional trigger. Mars is then going to sway Venus into acting out of impulse rather than cooperation, right? The person gets too caught up in fulfilling their own needs and desires and might impulsively step over people's boundaries. And then that's of course going to lead to friction and disharmony. But luckily here, as in this case, Venus is ruled by Mars, who is in Aquarius and who becomes a temporary friend. And so Venus is therefore able to maintain harmony and balance, even though it's going to be a bit more direct in social dealings. And so this person uses their cooperative spirit in a more direct way in 9th house matters, right? They are able to channel their will and energy into studying philosophies and teaching courses while maintaining peace and harmony. And their followers appreciate the way that they present the philosophy, that it is on one level direct and practical, but also that there's harmony in the course. And Mars is in Aquarius, and that makes the courses more interesting as well, right? Aquarius thinks outside the box, and that makes his teaching style more innovative, and his followers really love to come to his classes and listen to what he has to say. The next planet that we're going to analyze is the Moon, and the Moon is in a neutral dignity. First of all, the Moon is placed in Virgo, which is a natural friend sign. And this means that the Moon's needs for emotional security and nurturing are naturally supported in Virgo. Virgo is organized and pays attention to detail, and that gives a sense of calm and emotional balance to the Moon. So the Moon really likes to be in Virgo because this is where it can get its needs naturally met. Now the Moon is placed in the 4th house of home and inner foundation. And so this shows that the environment of Virgo is naturally compatible with the Moon to fulfill its 4th house needs, which are its domestic and inner needs. However, the Moon's Lord Mercury is in a temporary inimical relationship with the Moon. Mercury is also here in the 10th house of career responsibilities, and because Mercury is a temporary enemy of the Moon, those career responsibilities cause emotional strain. Mercury is in Pisces, and it's also debilitated because it's in the first 15 degrees. And this means that the person really struggles to think rationally, clearly, and to communicate in a sensible manner. He gets easily confused and sometimes doesn't understand things properly. And then as a result, he does something irrationally and makes mistakes. He's a business owner as well. And when it comes down to making important decisions, he doesn't always make sure to go through all the details in the contract. And then he agrees to a bad deal and then loses money. And all of this is going to disrupt his emotional well-being. But overall, the Moon luckily is in a neutral dignity, right? Because it is here in Virgo, which is a natural neutral sign, right? Virgo brings an emotionally stable environment for the Moon, which supports his inner well-being. But then Mercury is here the temporary enemy of the moon. And so he struggles with clear thinking, rational thinking, and to communicate clearly his ideas. And this is going to cause problems in his life, and those problems affect him emotionally. And so overall, this moon can only function in a very mediocre way.